Hi, I'm Matt, here in Michigan.
And I'm Randall here in Texas. Today, Matt and I are taking you back in time 30 years to watch Thelma and Louise. Celebrating its 30th anniversary, it stars Gina Davis, Susan Sarandon, Harvey Keitel, Michael Madsen, Brad Pitt, and Christopher McDonald. It is directed by Ridley Scott, who you probably know as the director of Alien, Blade Runner, and of course, one of my favorite films, Gladiator, which we've already done a review on. But before we get too far into this flashback review, make sure if you like this video, you give it a like because those likes really help us out. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon so you're always alerted to when we're uploading new videos.
Now, Thelma and Louise are off on a girls' vacation when a rape leads Louise to shoot and kill the attacker. Now, the two of them are on the run from the law and go on a journey of discovery about themselves. This movie had a $16.5 million budget and earned nearly $45.5 million at the box office. Thelma and Louise is generally liked by both critics and audiences. It won the Oscar and Golden Globe for Best Original Screenplay. Randall, this is the first time I've seen Thelma Louise, and I was actually surprised by some of the names attached to this, like Ridley Scott and Hans Zimmer for the music. But Randall, what do you think about Thelma and Louise?
Oh no, Matt. Before we get into that, I have to talk about cars and movies.
Cars and movies!
There are two cars of note in this that I really have to point out. There is a 1977 third generation Corvette, commonly called the C3, driven by Thelma's scumbag husband. It's only on screen for a little bit, but it's beautiful red color. Can't miss it. But the eponymous 1966 Ford Thunderbird, driven by our characters, Thelma and Louise, in beautiful Tahoe turquoise. Oh my god, that car is easily one of the most famous Hollywood cars. Now, back to the review. I really do like this movie quite a lot. It's the first time I've watched it, though, as an adult. The last time I watched it was quite a long time ago. I was much younger and probably didn't quite get everything that was going on. But oh my god, talk about a bender gone completely wrong. That is Thelma and Louise. Your first viewing, what did you think about it?
Oh, I really liked it. There's some things like Thelma and Louise is such a well-known movie, I think, that there's some things like even if you haven't watched it, you already know, especially like the iconic scene at the end of how this movie ends. And it's kind of interesting too that knowing that it's kind of like, all right, we know what this all is building to. This is all it's building to. But this movie, I think, was well enough done that it doesn't matter. It's always building to that anyways. So even if you didn't know what that last scene in the movie is, you know where it's leading up to. Because we always have those kind of hints.
And I'm going to hold you personally responsible for at least part of it if anything happens to them.
Yes, this is a fun one. Our two main characters are excellent in this film. And yes, that T-Bird, I would say, is probably the third character. I'm glad that we get some excellent shots of the T-Bird. Beautiful shots with the background and everything, where the car can just take over. The T-Bird is definitely one of the stars of this movie.
These characters, Thelma and Louise, are the stars of the show. In fact, it's the last time where two actors in the same movie, or actresses, either way, were both nominated for Best Actress. They are co-equals in this film, these characters, and Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon knock it out of the park. It's excellent. It's got an excellent, bit of casting going on. Harvey Keitel is always underrated, probably, in almost everything he's in. He's one of the most, well-respected characters in the film outside of the main characters. It's fantastically well done. The characters are great. But like you said, it's the ending that you're building towards that everyone knows. It's been parodied. It's been done. It's no secret it's coming up, basically. And it is worth it. It's just like, we're going to go out regardless. Let's just keep on going, basically. And then, famous scene. It's the beginning for me that I probably didn't remember the best because I watched it when I was a lot younger. And now it's just like, wow, you watch it as an adult with the context as an adult and you say, they should have been able to go to the police and really tell their side of the story. But in the context of 1991 and when the movie takes place, and even today, the fact that it's like, who's going to believe two women?
all of it, that he was raping me.
Just about 100 goddamn people saw you dancing cheek to cheek with him all night. Who's gonna believe that we don't live in that kind of a world, Thelma?
That part, to me, really sticks out because I didn't understand it when I was younger, and now it is obviously tragic.
And that kind of plays into how good our dynamic characters are, because Thelma and Louise are both really good dynamic characters. I guess I'll talk a little bit about Louise first, since we're talking about, what happens and why they can't go to the police kind of thing, or why they believe they can't go to the police. So we know that there's a little bit of a background with Louise. There's that first hint that, hey, you know what, there's some backstory, that goes along with her. And then, we get some of those other comments like,
Thelma, I'm not gonna talk about this. Now you either find another way or give me the goddamn map and I will.
and throughout the film, she mentions that, hey, if we're going to Mexico, but we can't go through Texas to get to Mexico, because I'm never going to be setting foot in Texas, know about that. And she never wants to talk about why, even though there's hints to why throughout the whole film. And that's what's really great. We learn more and more about Louise throughout the movie. We learn more as, I guess, she kind of learns more of what she really wants. Then on the other side, we have Thelma, who at the beginning, she's kind of that character that is kind of played off as like, hey, we know this character, she's this unappreciated housewife kind of thing. She's a little naive to different things. She doesn't really think things through. She's kind of thinks the best, I guess, of people, thinks that people are always gonna have her best interests in mind kind of thing. And then later in the film, she becomes this completely different character that is completely opposite of what she was at the beginning of the film. She's someone who actually takes charge, is willing to actually, do things, think on the fly, and break the law and stuff to basically help them out on their journey and stuff too. Gina Davis did an excellent job with this, and Susan Sarandon also did an excellent job. They are definitely worthy of both being top actors for a film and stuff. I definitely believe so. They nailed it in this.
Dude, I 100% agree, and I actually put it down as it's so weird to watch Gina Davis playing this unappreciated housewife, this very laid-back character, because if you watch almost anything that Gina Davis is in, she's a force to be reckoned with. She's not this sedate character. So actually watching a movie where for a good half of the film she is just ditzy and making stupid mistakes and not very in charge or knowing what she wants to do or who she really is was really strange. She does it so well, but you still want to associate it with that's not how I understand Gina Davis to be. It's like I would never see Sigourney Weaver playing a weak female role, because she always plays these strong female characters basically. But then you're like, all right, here's Dana Barrett from Ghostbusters. You're like, what? It's strange and off-putting. So yeah, I think you're 100% right when you say these are very dynamic characters. When you see them at the beginning of the movie, that is not what they end up being at the end of the film. But I think that you're right. You point out this thing where they start breaking the law. So it's one thing to, murder a guy who was trying to rape your friend and was being, complete dick about the entire thing. And you see the rage in Louise's eyes when she loses it. But then it gets a little bit different. You're like, okay, well, they're not ending up being good people. But at the same time, they are on this journey of becoming, something different than what they were at the beginning of the film, and that's still enjoyable to watch. So it's a really weird dichotomy between these two. The beginning and the end, so completely different.
Yeah, I think a lot of thing too is how they view that situation also changes in the film too, which is really good. Because first they're kind of like, oh my goodness, I shot and killed that guy. We got to run from the law kind of thing. We got to run from the law. And then it's at the end of the film, we get a different realization from our characters, especially Gina Davis's Thelma. She's basically
And I'm not sorry that son of is dead. I'm just sorry it was you that did it, not me.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how they look at that kind of differently, the whole situation. And they go from like running from the law to like not being afraid of the law, really. That's really when they become dangerous.
We could wax poetic all day, and we could, seriously, about these two characters because they are so great. But I have to talk about a couple of other characters and a couple of other scenarios for the film. So there's a lot of really good set pieces in this film. Like you mentioned already, the car and like the scenery and the drive. But there's also like these, the rainy, almost like the they're raining on their parade set pieces, really. And then you get the world thanks you for Brad Pitt taking his shirt off, basically. And I had trouble believing, not his character, because actually Brad Pitt does a very good job. This kind of springboarded him to stardom. But Gina Davis's character is the one scene in the entire movie where I have trouble believing that a woman that just came off of an attempted rape is going to let anybody touch her in that way. Now, granted, I have not had that situation for myself or that scenario, but I found it genuinely hard to think like, no, what she shouldn't be trusting him, and she should be no better than this given what just happened to her. And then, of course, they have the money that's going to get them on their way, and the man literally tells you he's a thief, and you leave the money in the room with the man who literally told you he's a thief.
What'd you do? I'm a robber.
That particular scene in the hotel is so unbelievable, but I don't care because the rest of the movie is so much fun to watch.
And we needed that too. We needed that, we needed Thelma to make yet another mistake that puts them behind on what they're trying to do. I think really as like the catalyst for her to make that big change. Like, here Louise has been doing everything that she can to take charge of doing everything, and now Louise is the one, on the ground in the hotel room or whatever, crying and stuff, basically beaten almost. It's time for me to take charge, and I think that's where we really get that go-getter change, complete change for Thelma in this movie. But yeah, man, Brad Pitt, Randall, there he goes. I do like watching him go.
Yep, that's him going. I love to watch him go.
I laughed so hard at that part of the film and stuff too. And a lot of these secondary characters, they're not as like dynamic, of course, there are two main characters, but they play their role so well. From Brad Pitt's like college student who actually is, a robber kind of thing, to like the horrible husband kind of thing, and even the cop that's like, I actually know what's going on kind of thing because I'm a good detective kind of thing. They all played their roles so well. I would say maybe the low spot for me might actually been Michael Madsen's character. Not that it was bad, but of all these great performances, his was maybe the lesser of them for me.
Michael Madsen came in and did Michael Madsen. Okay?
He did. Yep, he did.
That's not, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like it's what you're getting with Michael Madsen. Seriously. It's good, solid, just like straight laced. It's fine. But I think it's these good secondary characters just help elevate the film some more because so Gina Davis's Thelma, has this terrible relationship with her husband played by Christopher McDonald. You see her come out of that, but on the opposite side, you have the Michael Madsen character who's just kind of, Louise's boyfriend who is kind of like going to propose or he's planned on proposing, but, Louise isn't the marrying type, basically, and she didn't, I guess, make that as clear as she could have or should have or would have, given not the circumstances that they find themselves in, but it's fun. These secondary characters aren't meant to be dynamic in and of themselves. They're just there in service of uplifting our two main characters.
Yep, and they do an excellent job of that. Randall, I don't know if you caught this or not, but there's like one like gas station attendant and stuff. I'm like, holy crap, that looks just like Adam Driver. But there's no way that could be Adam Driver because he'd be like 7 or 8 years old when this movie was filmed.
I didn't catch it. Is it Adam Driver?
It can't be, dude. Seriously, could not be Adam Driver. But man, that's like Adam Driver clone right there in 1991.
Well then, okay. I didn't catch that. No, I didn't think about it like that. The thing that I did catch that I thought was funny is the you had already mentioned it. So Louise says several times, I'm not going to step foot in Texas.
Thelma, you know how I feel about Texas. We're not going that way.
And I'm like, well, Matt, you know how I feel about Texas.
Yep.
And that notwithstanding, I thought to myself, you know what? This is the first time I've ever thought this. I had this little theory of, I wonder if the people who made the Budapest joke in the MCU between Black Widow and Hawkeye are referencing this in some way, where it's like,
just like Budapest all over again.
You and I remember Budapest very differently.
And I'm like, I wonder if they took something from this where it's like, we're not going to talk about it, but we're going to keep mentioning it.
Who knows?
I do have a fan theory. About this movie. And I can't find anything online to substantiate this, so it's like completely my headcanon. But I have this like weird, funny feeling that Harvey Keitel's detective knows Louise, like actually knows her, because when he goes to her house, he says something like, "Happy birthday, honey," or something like that.
Happy birthday, lady.
And I'm like, what? What? Is he just saying happy birthday because he's found a great like clue or whatever? But then later, like, they actually talk and they have like this conversation, and then he's like,
I know what's making you run. I know what happened to you in Texas.
and they seem to have an existing relationship, but that no one's talking about. And he is so like hardened to not let them be killed, to not let them die, to being sympathetic to these characters. I'm like, he's the one thing that stands out. I feel like he must be Luis's dad or something.
You know, I never thought about that. I do like that idea. When I watched it, I thought he was just saying, like, oh, in the picture it was, like, her birthday or whatever. That's what he's assuming, just saying, like, happy birthday. Because I kind of took it as, like, hey, he's just trying to connect the dots. Like, how do we go from this happy child to, you know, someone killing another guy outside a bar kind of thing? Like, what happened in between? And I think maybe that led him into digging possibly more to find out about, you know, what happened in Texas kind of thing. But no, you very well could be right. And I actually like your head canon theory with that one, that there is actually some kind of connection. Maybe he was like a smaller detective or, you know, a police officer in Texas when that happened to Louise. I like that idea.
Yeah, I have no idea, but I like it. I think it even makes those characters a little bit more interesting when they're talking to each other on the phone. So it's probably nothing, but that's what I kind of felt and thought to myself. So maybe.
There's one thing, Randall, I think that I didn't necessarily fully liked about this movie. This movie has a bunch of different, I think, like, tone shifts a little bit. Like, some parts of this movie were supposed to take really, really serious, and other parts of this movie are kind of, like, played up for laughs a little bit more. Kind of like when they force the police officer into, like, the squad cruiser and stuff. That's played up, and it's supposed to be a little bit for laughs a little bit, you know, an empower moment for our two main characters with what is actually a really serious situation. And there was the other thing, too, where they blow up, like, the truck for the one guy that's been making horrible cat calls and gestures at them and stuff, too. It's another thing that's really serious that as the audience, you're supposed to take more as kind of like, you know, like a fun thing. And for me, it was kind of hard. I had to kind of stop and remind myself, like, hey, it's a movie. These parts are supposed to be fun. The intent is these are supposed to be fun parts of the movie. And, you know, you don't want this to be a completely serious movie, because movies are supposed to be fun. You know, you're supposed to enjoy it. And I don't think that this would have been a good, enjoyable movie if we were just serious throughout this whole film. We need these kind of like Gina Davis characters, you know, Thelma holding up, you know, robbing the convenience store gas station, using the exact lines that, you know, Brad Pitt's DJ had just told about in his story about how he does it kind of thing.
Ladies, gentlemen, let's see who wins the prize for keeping their cool. Simon says, everybody down on the floor. Now, nobody loses their head, then nobody loses their head.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a robbery. Now, if nobody loses their head, nobody will lose their head.
Like, you need that to kind of, like, break up the film and add some humor to it. But I think for me, you know, it was kind of hard for me to, like, stop and be like, hey, Matt, you know, just enjoy these parts. You're just supposed to enjoy these parts. Turn the brain off and just enjoy the film.
Yeah, speaking of turning the brain off, there was a couple of things where I didn't turn my brain off and started thinking a little bit hard. And there's two things in particular. Number one, you're driving a 1966 Thunderbird, which is awesome, but you're on the run from the law. You're supposed to ditch your car and just like pick up another car. Trade your awesome car for something less conspicuous, basically. And number two, once you find out that they know you're heading towards Mexico, you turn that car straight north and you start heading to Canada. Like, don't keep going the same way the cops know you're going.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's one part in that film where they're kind of like, they do get that idea like, oh, let's go in the different direction kind of thing. Because they expect us to keep going this way or whatever. So maybe we'll throw them off. But yeah, I totally agree. You would think they would go in Canada instead of, sticking to this plan like Mexico. Maybe that's one thing about movies. They just have like some idea of like lawlessness, like, or you can escape the law or have these ideals that you can have like a better life, I guess, in Mexico. I don't know. Maybe that's just kind of like a movie thing that we keep going through with these different movies. But Randall, you can't ditch the T-Bird, man. You'd be like ditching, one of the top characters.
Yeah, but in service of the actual story, it makes sense to ditch the T-Bird, and it's a nice car. You could trade it for some jalopy. That's all you need.
I'll be honest with you, even though I know the last scene is with the T-Bird when, the famous scene when they go off the edge, but when they were holding up the guy with the truck, I almost thought at that point, they're kind of like desperate or whatever. I thought they were going to take over the truck and start driving the truck.
Yeah, right.
With you.
Have you ever driven a big rig? Do you have any idea?
It'll be one of the least things they would expect you to be running away in.
Oh man, yeah, that's so true. You know what? The fun thing is this film is 30 years old and it's just as confusing and preeminent and interesting to watch now as it was when it came out. I absolutely recommend that if you haven't seen it and you want to go watch this, it's totally worth your time. A little over 2 hours, but it is a film that if you're a purported movie buff, you really should see.
Yep. I totally agree. It has some similar beats to other, like, on-the-road movies or whatever, but at its heart, this movie is about friendship, finding your true self and stuff, and this movie does an excellent job with that. Yes, I recommend seeing it. If, like me, you haven't seen it in the 30 years that it's been out, definitely go check it out. You guys should also go check out some of our other reviews on our YouTube page. We have new movie reviews, flashback movie reviews, and deeper dive discussions.
I guess we do TV shows too.
Do we do TV shows? I'll just add that in too.
We also have a Facebook page, so make sure to check us out over there if you haven't already. We post the day before what we're going to be posting on YouTube the next day. We also post videos every Monday and Thursday. For now, I'm Randall. You know how I feel about Texas. I'll see you guys all next time.
And I'm Matt, here in Michigan. Have a good day, everyone. Next time on No Market Media. Please consider checking out some of our other videos.